A little bit early. Folks, welcome to the show. Let the truth be told. As usual, we get a little started a little bit early. We have a great guest in the studio today that can bring a lot of information to us. So, folks, this is where we do our part, sharing it around. Did we get a feed yet, bro?
I haven't seen one just yet, but
All right. Let's see. Everybody's got stars up there, so
yep, it's going.
yeah, we got one going. So we can share it around. Folks, y'all share it around. We got a great show. Mr. Thomas Holman in. He is an expert on immigrations, and I love to say that, man. I'm telling you. And he gonna bring a lot of information to us regarding the border situation, Title 42. And I would say that please share this around. This is a great show. Welcome to TECNTV.com. That's the Exceptional Conservative Network. You can go right there at the station and watch out of Washington, D.C. But we got a great guest. We got a great show. And we're going to answer a lot of questions today about what's happening at the border in Mexico. A lot of times the news don't even tell you what's going on. But today we got somebody in here that knows what's going on, an experienced person. And he's going to get us up to date on what's going on and what the American people should be thinking about this whole thing, because it's sort of difficult to put my mind around when we know that there's a lot of stuff that's going on in at the border, and this government and administration has not really stepped up to the plate to be able to deal with it. But we keep seeing them always asking for more money to deal with the border situation, but none of that money is going and getting to the right hands to make a difference. And the American people need to know the truth. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about what's happening there, what has happened in the past, what we can look forward to, and really how this border situation is going to affect the American people, especially the Black community. So, folks, if you ain't got nothing to do, y'all come in. We're sharing it around. We're going to have a great show. We got guests, and you don't want to miss it. We're really going to answer a lot of questions. And if you have any questions, you can call in 708-663-5262. If you got questions for Mr. Holman about what you feel that's happening at the border or some of the things that you know of, y'all call in, ask the questions, because this is the night you can get a lot of answers, because we do have an expert who has been there and done that and continue to stand on the front line for the American people. And I think that's what we need right now. We cannot go without having somebody in our corner to tell the truth and make sure that we are well aware of what's going on. So, folks, y'all share it around. We're going to get started in a minute. Hey there, brother. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just got an ambulance going by me here.
Okay. I'm in the studio getting ready for a show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Want me to call you later?
Yeah, call me later. We'll talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Yeah, folks, y'all share it around. We got a few minutes before we start. And we're going to continue to share it around to our groups. And that's what's needed, though. The American people really, really, really need to know what's going on, and we have to have somebody to tell us these things. And that's what we got going on tonight. We got a great show. We got a great guest, and we're definitely going to we're gonna put some information out there. And folks, y'all know it's Christmas time. It's time to celebrate with your families and spend some time with your kids. And it's for grandparents, we just spoil them and send them back home. So, folks, y'all ain't got nothing to do. Y'all chime in, and we'll get everything to going here. We got a couple of minutes before showtime, and like I said, share it around. That's what we're doing, and chime in. So, Mr. Binky, let me hear your voice. Is you okay over there?
I'm still breathing.
Sound check. Okay, good.
I'm still going.
All right, good. Let me get this music all set up, and we're gonna get it in and get started because I want to make sure we get enough time for any questions that might be asked.
Mr. Holman, are you still active in the Homeland Security or?
No, I'm retired.
Oh, okay,
I got my own company now, and I advise on Homeland Security issues.
there you go.
If the right guy comes back in 2 years, I'll be back.
There you go.
We're gonna need you back because I'm telling you, somebody got to tell the truth out there of what's going on. Okay, gentlemen, I'm gonna throw y'all in the back. We're gonna get started, and I'll bring y'all back in once I finish up the monologue. There you go. Folks, and welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I want to welcome you to the show. We have a great guest tonight, and this person has been all over the news. Mr. Holman, he has been talking about immigrations, what's going on at the border. So y'all chime in. We're gonna get started in just a second here. And you know, we got a couple minutes for show time. Let's do this.
But one of the questions that comes up already rather frequently, does this have anything to do
Testing 1 2
with the efficacy of the vaccine?
Global pandemic. Global plague.
I can't choke. I can't breathe.
Last words of George Floyd. Y'all come on in.
My wrist, man. My wrist, man, please. I can't take that, man. I can't. I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground, bro.
And like I said, we got a great guest today. We're going to talk about what's going on at the border here in the United States. So y'all stick and stay. Don't go nowhere. Share it around. Come on in and listen to what we're talking about. It could be beneficial to you.
Police gunning down black kids and men. An accident or simply murder?
We can deliver racial justice and we can make America once again a leading force for good in the world.
President Biden, will he make America great? We want to hear from you. Global, universal, and coming from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Now it's time to let the truth be told with David Lowery.
Good morning, Vietnam. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at in the country. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. Folks, yesterday we did part 1. And we talked about what's going on at the border. We talked about Title 42. And there's a lot of things that's going on around this Title 42 act of law. People are losing their lives at the border. The cartel is taking over. And the American people are unsure what's happening. So if you ain't got nothing to do, I got a great guest. Y'all tune in and let's get it in. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, David L. Lowery Jr. And the show is Let the Truth Be Told, Let the Truth Be Told. I'd rather for you to hurt me with the truth than comfort me with a lie. Let's get it in. First, I want to give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for making it possible for me to be here. And I want to welcome all my first-time listeners, regular listeners. Welcome to the show. We got to start it early because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. To the American people and patriots across this country, yesterday we started a conversation regarding Title 42, which is the migrants law that stops a lot of illegal aliens from coming into the country. And just like I said yesterday, there was a lot of things as an American citizen that I did not understand about the importance of having a wall up to secure our borders. And a lot of us, we think about it and we go, oh, no, well, it's all a political ploy. It's not that bad. But that's not true. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to meet a person that's been on the front line, that has been there. They've watched people die at the hands of the cartel. They know about all the child trafficking. It's a mess down at that border. And you would think that the American people will be well informed about it, but we are not. The government continue to keep secrets. Joe Biden is fighting to have the Title 42 Act removed, to open our borders and let anybody in here. And so the fight has been taken up by the Supreme Court, and they have stayed the Title 42 so that we can at least try to salvage and make sure that we can protect this country from terrorist threats, criminals, and other people who might want to harm us. And so with no further ado, I want to bring my co-host in, I want to bring my guest in, and we're going to get this conversation started. Welcome, Mr. Binky.
Howdy.
Welcome, Mr. Holman. How are you today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Listen, folks, this is Mr. Thomas Holman. He was the acting director from 2017 to 2018 under the Trump administration. And this man was the head of the immigration department, the borders. He was in charge of all this. So, Mr. Holman, tell our listeners a little bit about you yourself, your work, and all the things that you've seen, what's going on at that border down there in Mexico.
Well, a little bit about myself. I grew up in upstate New York. I was a cop in New York. And after that, I became a border patrol agent. I was assigned down to San Diego sector. So I wore that green on the border for, several years. Then I became a special agent for immigration, criminal investigator. And I climbed the ladder one rung at a time. And actually, I was the first director of ICE named by President Trump, first director of ICE actually to come up through the ranks. So I've done this job for 34 years. I've done this job. So I've seen it all. I've been on front lines border patrol agents. I've been a special agent investigating cartels, investigating organizations that smuggle drugs, smuggle guns, smuggle people, trafficking women and children, sex trafficking. So after my vast experience, I went to Washington, D.C., and President Trump got elected. He reached out to me. I was third in command at ICE. I announced my retirement. I was tired. And the day of my retirement, I actually got a call from President Trump that asked me not to retire. He wanted to put me in charge of the agency, so I decided to stay, which was a great thing. I'm very proud of that. What's going on? Let me set the record straight on a few things.
Go ahead.
I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I worked for, every one of them, all 6, took actions to try to secure the border. Some did more than others. Even President Obama and President Clinton took actions. I mean, under President Obama in FY12, we removed a record number of illegal aliens. So every president understood you can't have national security without border security. Every president I worked for did everything they could to try to secure the border. Some did more than others. More than President Trump. Under President Trump, we had immigration to a 40-year low, illegal immigration, 40-year low. We had illegal immigration down 83% on average. Then Joe Biden became president. Joe Biden is the first president in the history of this nation who came into office to secure the border. He unsecured it. Unlike his predecessor, he didn't come and try to make it even more secure than Trump. He didn't want to keep it at the same level than Trump. He came in, he signed over 90 executive orders abolishing every Trump administration and in fact abolished the most secure border in my lifetime. And where are we at right now? Since Joe Biden's become president, the first year on his presidency, we had 1.7 million illegal aliens enter this country, southern border. 1.7 million. A record by far. Here's an historic record. That record is the highest number of illegal aliens coming across the border in the history of this nation. Second year, he broke the record. Second year, we had almost 2.4 million.
Are you still there? You sort of froze.
Yeah, I think he froze.
Yeah.
He's become president. We've had over 4 million people cross the border in 2 years he's been president. 4 million. Now you add to that the gotaways. The 4 million were encounters. Someone touched them, they fingerprinted them, Most of them are released in the United States, not sent back. Since Joe Biden became president, now we got to add another 1 million gotaways. How do I know the gotaways are people that weren't arrested, came across the border and escaped? How do we know that it's actually 1.2 now? How do we know that? Because there's cameras, there's drones, sensors, and they'll trip a camera, they'll trip a sensor. But Border Patrol is so overwhelmed right now, these family groups, they can't respond to arrest them. So 1.2 million have entered this country and were arrested. Now, let me say something. The 4 million people came across, when they turn themselves into Border Patrol, they get asylum, they get released to the United States and wait for the court date. While they're waiting for the court date, they can apply for a work authorization. Not only that, after the Border Patrol processes you, they will transport you to any city you want where you're going to establish a residence. So why would 1.2 million people not take advantage of that? Why would they not turn themselves over to the Border Patrol agent, make an assignment, get transported to the city of their choice, and get work authorization? Well, there's a reason why. Because they don't want to be fingerprinted. And there's a reason they don't want to be fingerprinted. But what's scary is because we got 4 million people encountered, the Border Patrol now, as we speak, 70 to 80% of Border Patrol agents are no longer on patrol. They're processing these big groups. In El Paso, there's nobody on the border the last couple of days because they're just being overwhelmed. Everybody's processing. Yesterday in El Paso, hundreds of illegal aliens walked right across the highway into the city of El Paso, unimpeded by any law enforcement because no Border Patrol agents were there to patrol.
Now,
when you overwhelm the Border Patrol where 80% of agents are off the line, what happens? When 80% of the border is unguarded, that's when the fentanyl comes across that killed over 100,000 Americans. That's when no one suspected terrorists can enter. That's when sex trafficking, women and children happen. Open borders cause all this other chaos. And the last point I'll make before I move on is, in the 2 years, Border Patrol has arrested 116 known and suspected terrorists. They're trying to get the border. They arrested terrorists. Don't arrested law enforcement. So out of that 1.2 million, how many of them are known suspected terrorists? Because Border Patrol has arrested people from 161 different countries. Some of those countries are sponsors of terrorism. So if you don't think a single one of that 1.2 million that got away wasn't a terrorist, then you're a fool. I can't tell you how many terrorists have entered, snuck across the border under Joe Biden, but someday we're going to find out. It's going to be a bad day for this country.
And that is so true, because the fact of the matter is this. It's a shame, I think, that the Supreme Court had to step in and stop the liberals from pulling back this Title 42, because that's our last line of defense, really. And when you start talking about fingerprinting, that's how we can find out who's coming in and what they're capable of. So for that 1.7 million to be wandering around this country like that, it is so much happening with the child trafficking now, especially in my community, the Black community. Our children are under attack. We can't leave them unguarded for a second. And that's because there's so many people that are in this country illegally that don't care, because all they have to do is go back to their own country. So what are some of your thoughts, Mr. Holman, that we should be doing? Because we know Joe is trying to get rid of the defenses we have. What should we be doing, and what should the American people know right now about what's happening at that border, that we should be up in arms to support that law staying in place?
And that's what I'm trying to push, regardless of what anybody's opinion. Because some people, illegal immigration enforcement has always been controversial, always been emotional, and I get it. But regardless of what your opinion is on illegal immigration, when it's this bad, when it's this out of control, it causes other problems like fentanyl, sex trafficking, women and children, terrorism, and so forth. Do you know, since he's been president, we've had 250,000, over 250,000 children cross the border by themselves. Then the government places them with so-called sponsors. As of right now, they have lost track of 42% of them.
Wow.
42% of that 250,000 kids, children, can't be found. That should scare the hell out of everybody. I guarantee you some of these children are in forced labor. Some are being forced into child pornography. Some are living with sexual predators and pedophiles. Some of these children are living a horrible, horrible life right now. So when people tell me, well, immigration, this is kind of victim, kind of coming here for a better life. No, you got to understand the whole underbelly of this. Doctors Without Borders did a study that 31% of women who make that journey with the use of criminal cartels get sexually assaulted numerous times. I've talked to girls as young as 10 years old that were raped numerous times coming across that border.
Wow.
I was just down in Brooks County, Texas, 2 months ago. Talked to a doctor. He told me a story about. I told you guys this yesterday. A father, a mother, and a child. The child was 20 months old, under 2 years old. They all started drowning in the river, and the Border Patrol agents, of course, jumped in the river and saved them. They thought they saved them. They saved the mother and father. They thought they saved the child, but the child later died on the way to the hospital. During the medical examination, the medical examiner said that child, that baby, was sexually violated numerous times in all of her openings. Not even 2 years old. Sodomized. The story came out from the cartels said they wouldn't cross them into the United States unless one of the cartel members had access to that little girl and do whatever he wanted to do. This might want listeners to understand. This stuff happens every day. Since Joe Biden's become president, we've had over 1,500 migrants have died on U.S. soil. Either they drown in the river, they get abandoned in the desert, or they just get overcome by the heat. 1,500 migrants, 100,000 Americans that comes across that border. So regardless what you do, immigration, it's a lot worse than that now. We're talking about the death of migrants, death of Americans at record numbers, and terrorism. Now, what right now, Title 42, look, we're in a record historic crisis right now, even with Title 42. When Title 42 goes away, and it will go away, mark my word, what happens? Well, more people are going to come because they know they won't be sent back, which more border patrol off the line, which is going to result in what? More fentanyl coming across, escaping, more victims of child trafficking and sex trafficking, more terrorists. It's going to make life really, really hard on the southern border. And people need to understand, well, that's a southern border. I don't care. That's way down in Texas and Arizona. Every state's a border state now. Fentanyl is making it into every town, city, and state in this nation. I guarantee your listeners know somebody who has a child or something that's been affected by fentanyl. If they don't, they soon will. DEA says that fentanyl problem is going to explode this year because so much is coming in. So much is coming in because the border's not protected because agents are tied with this crisis. So when 42 goes away, that's what's going to happen. But what I've been screaming about on TV is they already have the Remain in Mexico program they can re-implement. President Trump created the Remain in Mexico program because President Trump, when I sat in the Oval Office, there's two things I told President Trump based on real data, accurate data. Number one, nearly 9 out of 10 people who cross our border and claim asylum never get relief from U.S. courts because either don't show up or they don't qualify. Asylum means you're escaping fear and persecution from your home government because your race, religion, political affiliation. Coming here to get for a job, coming here to escape poverty. I get it, but it doesn't qualify for asylum. So 9 out of 10 commit asylum fraud. They claim asylum at the border. No, they don't qualify, and they'll lose their case. There's another data point I told the President Trump. I said, look, so let's look at the Homeland Security Life Cycle Report. Out of that 90% that gets ordered removed, how many leave? If you're a family unit, you leave 6% of the time. 6% of the time. If you're a child, you leave 3% of the time. If you're a single adult, you leave 16% of the time. So the president says, okay, so 90% don't really qualify, so just getting in the country by committing fraud, and only 6% leave. Why the hell we keep releasing them? So he came up with the Remain in Mexico program. You can stay in Mexico. You can come to the border, claim asylum. And when your hearing comes, come to the border and we'll have your hearing. If you lose, like 90% of you will, you're already gone. We don't have to worry about trying to track you down and find you. It was a great plan. It was a game changer. The federal courts have told the Biden administration, you can do that if you want. So when you the Biden administration saying, well, it's the court's decision to do away Title 42, not us. We're really not. No, this wasn't our decision. We're forcing this position because that's now you were right in the beginning when you said the Biden administration wants to shut it down, but now the story's changed. Now it's the court's fault, not our fault. But what they don't say is, but they have the escrow program they can tomorrow, which the Trump administration clearly shows was a game changer, moved the numbers way down. So this border crisis, I'll say this, it's not because of mismanagement. It's not because of incompetence. This is their plan. This is by design. So their plan is coming together perfectly. And why, if people ask, well, why would they want to do that? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, the ideology. President Biden sold out to the progressive left who's lost their minds, and they think there shouldn't be any borders. The whole world should be a big country. He bought into something. But the biggest reason is political power. A lot of people on Capitol Hill perceive a future political benefit from doing this. How? Well, many of them they think will be Democratic voters once they get amnesty. But here's what I keep saying to them: well, they don't have to vote. They don't have to even become a citizen, because one of the things Biden did when he wrote those 90 executive orders abolishing everything we did, he also wrote another order that said what? He abolished the census rule. Now these millions of illegal aliens will be counted in the next census, which is going to result in what? They'll be in sanctuary cities. It's going to result in more seats in the House for the Democrats. So they'll control the House forever. This is their plan. They sold the national security of this nation out. We got children dying, Americans dying, because they perceive a future political benefit by doing what they're doing.
And that is the only logical reason that we can come up with, because when you told the story about because 53 people died was Tuesday in the heat inside of a container, and it just stayed in my mind to be able to see something like that, to be at ground zero when you go in and you see those people that are dead and all they want to try to do is get into this country. Some trying to get a better life, they're trying to get a better life for their kids. They're risking their kids' life to be sodomized or taken away. It's just horrible that what happened with the 53. But I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about what you talked about when you was on the ground zero and you saw that similar situation in your life.
Well, we got to remember, though, is, these people come for a better life. But here's the problem. President Biden has done a lot of things and said a lot of things. Right now, these criminal cartels are selling their services. They're telling people, which is the truth. I can get you to the United States. I can get you across the border. You won't be, you'll be released, and you can get work authorization. And if you lose your case, you don't have to leave because no one's looking for you. Only 6% leave because no one's looking for them. So when and President Biden during the campaign said what? I'm going to put a moratorium on deportations. I'm going to end detention. I'm going to give free health care to illegal aliens. And I'm going to have an amnesty program. When you make those types of promises, the most vulnerable people in the world are going to want to come to the greatest country on earth. So when you entice them, they're going to sell everything they have, and they're going to give that money to the cartels to be smuggled to the United States, and many will die. So I say about illegal immigration, Congress's failure again. If we need those people here for employment purposes, which we could always use workers, right? Then create a system where they can get a work visa, come in legally. Let's say they're coming in to help on a farm. They come in for the season. They pick the crops, or they work on a farm, or they paint the houses, or they frame a house, whatever. And when they get done, if it's a 6 month visa or year visa, they go back with the money they made. And here's what that accomplishes. Number one, we get the labor. And number two, they pay the taxes. And number three, they don't have to hire a criminal organization. They simply go to a port of entry with their visa in hand. So we can fix this. But Reason I take this so emotional is some of the stories I said yesterday. In my 34 years, I've held many dying children. I've held dead children. I've talked to women, and I mentioned this earlier. I've talked to girls as young as 10 years old that were raped multiple times making that journey. That little 10-year-old girl will never be the same. A lot of the women now, they'll take them, they come up and they carry their own condoms. They carry the morning after pill because they know chances are I'm going to be raped. When I was down in Brooks County a couple months ago, I was told about a rape tree. I don't know what's a rape tree. Sheriff told me some of it. They took it down. The smugglers would women take their undergarments and hang them in this big tree.
Mm.
Hundreds of underwear hanging in this tree as a trophy for these cartels. This is how ruthless they are. Back about 10 years ago, I was in Dallas, Texas, giving a speech to the International Chiefs of Police Association. I was a third in command. I get a phone call that there's a tragic event in Victoria, Texas, and since the director at the time, who was John Morton, knew I spent the majority of my career investigating smuggling and investigations, he said, "I want you to go down and run this investigation." So I took an Air Marine flight down there. All I had was the clothes on my back. I left from the straight down there to the crime scene. I get to the crime scene, and the Texas Ranger introduced themselves and walked. Now here's the kid, me. Again, I grew up in a village of 2,500 people. I grew up milking cows, for God's sakes. Now I find myself standing on the back of a tractor trailer with 19 dead people at my feet. And when I walked up the tractor trailer, there was 3 or 4 on the ground because they were all trying. They broke the tail out of the back of the tractor trailer trying to get air while they were traveling. So they were fighting over that little air pocket. And some died right there in front of the doors. So when the doors finally, the people rushed out and pushed some. 4 bodies were already on the ground. I look in the back of the tractor trailer before I climb up in there, and I just see people laying down over the inside of the tractor trailer. Most of them, almost all of them, in their underwear because they tried to get some relief from the heat and got down their underwear. One of the first things my eyes keyed on was in the middle was a little boy who was dead. He was wearing little yellow Batman underwear. Later found out he was 5. I had a 5-year-old son at the time. That bothered me. When I got back in the tractor trailer and the crime scene photographer showed up, and I was telling him what pictures I needed and how I wanted the pictures. But I told him to stay away from the child. Not because the child wasn't important, it's because I wasn't mentally.
Big time. And this is what the people need to understand.
I wasn't able to deal with it at the time. So we got up to the crime scene. I say, "Let's now do the boy." I knelt down before this little boy and I put my hand on his head and I said a prayer. Because I knew, based on my years of experience, what he went through, the way he died, the way he suffered. Begging, in case we found out the little boy would look up at his dad and tell his dad that I'm dying. "Daddy, I'm dying, help me." That little 5-year-old boy knew he was dying. No 5-year-old little boy should ever utter those words, especially in those circumstances. And of course, his father couldn't help. His father put him in that position. They're in a steel box. It's 175 degrees in that steel box.
Wow.
A steel floor. When those bodies end up laying on the floor on their skin was burned.
I mean, it was hot in that box.
It was hot. The coroner says probably 175. It was pitch black, couldn't breathe. They get down their underwear. They get burned by the steel. They're dying one at a time. There's so many people in the tractor trailer. Some were dying standing up because they were packed in there. So when I got done processing that case, long story short, we put 14 people went to prison, and I'm glad we did that. However, when I got that whole thing, I'll be honest with you, I've been law enforcement for a lot of years. I had to go get some help because it bothered me, and every night I couldn't sleep. Every night I go to bed, I saw my son laying there. I felt guilty because my life was good. My son wasn't in that position. And it's a terrible, terrible thing. But with the, right after that, put 14 people in prison. Then he sent me to Phoenix, Arizona to run Operation Ice Storm. In Phoenix, Arizona, the smuggling group across the load house. Then they rip each other off like they rip drugs. They rip off their people because their people worth so much money. So they're having shootouts and aliens. They couldn't pay their smuggling fee. They would kill them. So they would make agreement. Okay, I can get you to Chicago for $10,000. They agree to it. They smuggle the person. They get them to a house in Phoenix. They call the relative. You got your brother. What you owe us $20,000, and they would say, no. We agreed on 10,000. Well, guess what? Now it's 20. Either you pay it or we kill them, and they did. Bodies were piling up in Phoenix.
Wow.
And they're finding dead migrants all across the city. So they sent me over to run that investigation. I seen many dead migrants who couldn't afford smuggling fees. One of them died by getting stabbed in the face over 20 times. That's how he died. They stabbed him in the face with a butcher knife over 20 times until they knew he was dead. We had one sister of a smuggled alien called us up and says they're beating my brother and making us listen to it.
Wow.
And kill him because we can't afford to pay the money. So luckily she was able to give us the cell phone number of the smuggler. And of course, we did the law enforcement things we do, and we were able to find it. When we busted that door and we found that guy, he was hog-tied, hands and feet behind his back. His entire head, his entire skull was wrapped in duct tape. And had a hole poked in the mouth and had a straw. That's how he breathed for days. We found him all duct tape up, and of course, we took care of him, get him to the hospital and stuff. But I can go on. I can spend 2 hours.
But I want now. Quick question here, and Steve, if you got some questions, you want to jump in there too. My question is, a lot of people do not really understand what's happening at that border and the importance of securing it. Because I did not realize myself until we met and I started to hear these things, and I started to wonder about. There's so many of us that really don't know the dynamics and why it is important that we secure it. But
well, look,
question.
The Black community alone, how it affects you all. I mean,
exactly. That's my question. Because I know it affects us, but at that level that you've seen it, how have you seen it affect the Black community?
Because look, when they come over here, most of them come over to get a job. They want to make money, and no company illegal alien out of the goodness of their heart. They hire them because they can pay them less, work them harder, and if the alien complains, they'll simply call ICE. Well, during my career, I don't know how many times we get an anonymous report of illegal aliens working at a company. We go there, we arrest all these illegal aliens, only to find out they haven't been paid in a month.
Wow.
And we end up being the supervisor called, rather than he bank all the money in his pocket, call ICE, arrest them all, deport them. He kept all the money, just hired 30 more, do the same thing over again. That happens all the time. And I gave you one example yesterday. When I put a roof on my house, I had a storm damage in my roof. I had to call 5 before one guaranteed me a legal workforce because I won't hire a company that hires illegals. And any of the listeners can look up everify.com. Go to everify.com and you can see if the companies you're working with are using Verify. But anyways, this father showed up, his father and his son, adult son. He wanted to know if he could do the roof, maybe just make repairs because he couldn't replace the whole roof. And I said, no, the whole roof needs to be repaired. Then he told me a story that he had 20 U.S. citizen employees. He ended up laying them off because he couldn't win any bids. He couldn't win any work because all these companies were illegal aliens and put them on the roof at $5 an hour. And he was paying these U.S. citizens $15 an hour. So when he come to bid on jobs, he lost after bid. So what happened? 20 U.S. citizens get laid off. That happens every day across this country, hundreds of times. And I mentioned in Chicago, when I was the ICE director, we did an investigation on a meat packing plant up there, sausage plant. We arrested a bunch of illegal aliens in there and removed them. Within 60 days, you know who they hired?
Some more illegal aliens.
A lot of people in the Black community got those jobs. So look, they take jobs away. and they drive down wages. They work for cheaper, so it drives down wages. You want to know why your wages aren't rising? Because you got 12 million illegal aliens in this country working a lot cheaper. They over abuse our social systems. People say illegal.
Froze again.
Yeah. Did he come back?
Qualified from day one, even if they don't have U.S. citizen kids. They can go to food banks. They put their kids in elementary school because law says we got to. There are so many kids now in elementary school that are illegally here in the United States that don't speak any English. They're holding the class back because now the teacher has to slow the class down for the non-English speaking people. They affect our school system. They affect our jobs. They affect all our social services. And trauma centers are shutting down across the country. Emergency rooms, by law, have to treat somebody when they come in, whether they got insurance or not. And they absorb those costs. Guys that have insurance, they just charge us more. But at a certain point, they can't make it up. So now you got millions of illegal aliens here who go to emergency room and get free medical care, and these hospitals can't absorb all that. So now you got trauma centers shutting down. This uncontrolled illegal immigration in this country is going to ruin us. Welfare state for the entire world.
Yep. Steve, you got some questions? Go ahead.
I got three things. Okay. You spoke about the executive orders of a president and stuff. That's something that's got to be definitely addressed, because a president can't use executive orders outside of the executive branch. In essence, he can't alter or create laws. Okay, so every time they say that the president's throwing out new executive orders, they're following something that doesn't and should not exist to begin with. That's just my thought on that. You said you were around during Reagan, and he created the 1986 Immigration and Nationality Act. The Democrats are dead fast, constantly always saying we need comprehensive immigration reform. We already have laws on the books. And the job of the president isn't to sit there and write executive orders. His job is to faithfully execute the laws, right? So our founders, and I got this conspiracy theory called Constitution. Our founders put in Article 1, Section 10, and I'll read it real quick here, just part of it. It says that unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. What they're talking about is the power of the state. If a state is being invaded, which illegal immigration by the millions is an invasion, they're bringing drugs in, they're bringing crime in. They're here, the founding fathers gave them a tool here to use. Why don't the states use Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3?
Well, I mean, one at a time. Okay, so we talk about the president writing executive orders. I don't disagree with you. That's why I some of the work I do is the immigration reform law institute, the smartest lawyer, conservative lawyers in the country. I actually went to Texas and testified in federal court suing the Biden administration for 6 hours. We're suing this president because we're showing he doesn't have the statutory authority to do what he's doing, and we're 6-0 so far, so we won't keep suing him. The second, Ronald Reagan, when we came up with the Immigration Reform Control Act in 1986, that was supposed to be the last amnesty we ever see.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they said we're going to give you enough resources to enforce it. Well, the amnesty happened. The enforcement money never came. So we like to. So I agree with you on that point. The third point, I ought to hire you. I get back to administration, I'll give you a call on top of this. The last point on the states. I met with Carrie Lake. I was hoping she went to Arizona because Carrie Lake was going to declare an invasion on day one. I told her that I would come out on that day and I'd run it for her. I direct the border operations. So unfortunately, she's still fighting the election. Unfortunately, she's not governor yet. I met with Governor Abbott and his staff in the Attorney General's office. we brought some constitutional scholars that I work with and explained to him how he can declare an invasion. He hasn't got all the way there yet. He's about 80% there, but I think he's going to do it.
Okay, good.
I personally I read the same section you read, a few other sections in addition. I think he has the constitutional right to do it since the federal government has advocated their responsibility to protect Texas. Texas needs to protect themselves. I defend Governor Abbott all the time because people say he needs to do the invasion thing 100%, and I agree. However, what he's done so far, he's done more to secure this border than anybody in this country. When he sends his troopers out there, National Guard out there, every ounce of fentanyl he sees saves a life or many lives.
Right, right.
He arrests. Yeah, he charges them with trespassing. He turns them back over the board so they may not be released. But at least he's fingerprinting them. They're not getting away. He's fingerprinting them so they. So Governor Abbott's doing a great job. I think he's 85% there on declaring the entire invasion act to actually enforce immigration law and deport people. I think he'll do it. I think he'll do it probably within the next 3 months. I'm hoping.
So with the asylum thing, if they continue with this, the asylum thing means that they have to get fingerprinted, or they don't have to be fingerprinted if they claim asylum?
They do.
So that is the catch-all thing right there, because if you get those fingerprints, then you can find out who this person is, more about what they're doing and what they're capable of.
Sometimes we got to remember some of these nations, some of these poor nations, they don't have records like we do. You'd be surprised how many nations you can't get a birth certificate from. And let's use Afghanistan as an example. The reason they messed up on vetting all these, was it 1,700 Afghanistans they brought over here? They weren't vetted properly, because by the time we got them out, Taliban's already in control, and they seized all the government records. So when we reach over and say, "Is this birth certificate real? Is this guy actually born here? Is this real here? Is this high school certificate real?" There's no document, so we can't verify a lot of things. And when you come from a really poor country like Haiti, most people don't even have identity documents, so it's hard. So we try to find out who they are through fingerprints and other biographical data. But a lot of countries, it's virtually impossible to find out who they are, and there's a lot of terrorists in this country who've never been arrested. They're behind the scenes. They haven't been arrested on the battlefield, or they haven't been arrested before. So there's a lot of terrorists out there who just don't have a record because they haven't been caught yet. Well, what we can find from the terrorist screening database is those who were either on the battlefield in a bad place, so the military took their information down along with pictures and eye scans, or there's an investigation into them. But again, the terrorism nexus is a scary thing for me, because I think this is the biggest national security failure in this nation's history, because I think it's going to be worse than 9/11. And the thing is, they know it's happening. The numbers I give you, the 116 non-suspect terrorists arrested, they know. And they know there's 1 million escapees. So the Secretary of Homeland Security, I call for his impeachment. He's the Secretary of Homeland Security. If you know this is causing and putting this country in danger, it's your responsibility to tell the White House, stop this, or I resign, I quit, because I can no longer support open borders because it's putting this country in great danger. Because everybody says, well, he's just following the president's orders, so you can't hate him. Yeah, I can. When you take that responsibility as Secretary of Homeland Security, either you have integrity or you don't.
And
Excuse me. Who was it? Was it Omar or Talib that made a statement that they had no intentions to assimilate into this country?
Omar.
Omar, yeah. And she's a Samoan refugee?
Yeah, this country is very good to her and her family. And that's the way she repays us. I mean, there's a lot of members in Congress. Look, I testified numerous times in Congress, and one congresswoman said I was a bigot because I enforced them. And of course, I got into it with her and says, well, if I'm a bigot for enforcing law, what's that mean? You wrote it.
Right.
I'm more enforcing laws you wrote. So, there's a lot of congressmen that don't get it. Like I said, I tell them now, even the ones on the left. Okay, you can embrace illegal immigration all you want. I get it. All right, you want one free world, one open world. But what you have caused in the southern border is a public safety crisis, a public health crisis, a national security crisis. You can't ignore that.
Right.
But you know what? Their ideology takes control, and you know, just today.
We get them back. Folks, you can always go to our stream tech TV .com.
There he is.
Here it is.
There you're back.
The omnibus bill that 21 Republican senators said they're going to sign gives millions of dollars to NGOs to release aliens into the country. How much does it give for border security? Zero.
Yeah.
Especially Senator Cornyn from Texas. Texas is overwhelmed. They're in the middle of an invasion. He's their senator, and he's going to sign the funding bill that gives him zero money for border security, money to the NGOs to bring more people in and release them. He's an embarrassment to the state of Texas. And there's 20 other senators, Collins and Murkowski and Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton. I don't understand he's on that list. They run down the southern border and have their dog and pony show saying what a terrible mess this is. We need to take action.
Yep.
Vote to take action.
And they do nothing.
For the citizens they represent. So I need to get a lot of Republicans right now because it's politics. And I did an interview today on Fox, and I raised hell saying, no, how many people have to die? How many citizens have to die? How many migrants have to die? How many women have to be raped? How many children drown in the river until these people pull their heads out of their butts and do what's right for this country? Put the politics aside. Save some lives. Save some girls from being raped. For God's sake. Your job is to protect this nation. That's your number one responsibility. But politics gets in the way, and I'm disgusted with a bunch of them.
Well, you know what? I'm so disgusted. As an independent, I got off the plantation in the mine a long time ago, when the left always depend on black folks to vote for them, and at the end of the day, their communities get worse after each election, and they put people in office, just like they put Joe in when Joe told black people, you ain't black if you don't vote for Joe. All of that kind of stuff. In the 90s, he created the crime bill. He said, hell yeah, I created. We're going to put them in jail. They're animals and all that kind of stuff. So when you see this, and especially for me, when I see this, and I know a lot of American people, patriots across this country, that live in the cities like I live in Chicago, that have no clue about what's actually happening at that border, because the media is not going to show it. Mainstream is not going to show it. The politicians are not going to say nothing. Just like the political leadership here in the state of Illinois. They're too busy trying to figure out ways how to take our freedoms. They're too busy trying to figure out ways how to indoctrinate our children with this new world order and homosexuality. They're not trying to do what's best for the American people. But it seems like Joe was just in Arizona maybe a week and a half ago. He didn't even go down to see the border crisis as the commander-in-chief. But as soon as he got back to Washington, D.C., he went in and asked for $6 to $9 billion for the border crisis. So what does that money actually go? Do you guys ever see any of that money? Is it supposed to hire more people? Where's all that money going?
It's not going for border. It's going to any of those non-government organizations that go down there. So the border patrol's overwhelmed. Once they process, they give it to the NGOs, and the NGOs will find out where they're going. They'll buy new clothes and new sneakers. They'll give them a plane ticket and send them on their way. They're bankrolling, the NGOs who are, organizations who are friends to the Biden administration. And what really upset me, it should upset every taxpayer listening to this. We have thousands of ICE beds that ICE has, Immigration Customs Enforcement, already paid, sitting empty, already paid taxpayers, and they're empty. The average cost is about $120 a night. But they're already paid for, thousands of them. They're empty. And they're giving companies like this company, the company called Endeavors. They're putting illegal aliens in hotel rooms at $374 a night. I've never stayed in a hotel room that cost me $374 a night. I'm a Hampton Inns guy. I'll pay up to $100, but $374 in a hotel room, while empty beds, taxpayers already paid, are empty. Why are they doing it? Because, like I told you before, if they're in detention and they lose their case, they're going to be deported. So this administration is spending 3 times as much money to not detain them, because they know 90% lose their case. If they're not detained, they don't leave. This isn't by accident. This again by design. Not only they open the border up, they're making it virtually impossible to ever remove them, even though 90% will lose their case. It's disgraceful. Well, this is
You said something that was important, and I hope the American people see this. As soon as they get that asylum status, they start giving them money for wherever they want to go. All this is at the taxpayer's expense. They give them money, whatever town they want to go to. They're offering them money and grants, open businesses. I mean, the American people right now are in dire straits. After this pandemic, we're trying to get our head above water. Joe administration took over, lied, forced a jab on people, man, lost their jobs. I mean, he keep talking about the job market, but the job market is that the situation he created. And so out of all of this stuff that Joe has done, the American people really, really need to start thinking about what we as the American people need to do, because from what I've seen and the things that are going on at this border, if we don't secure this border, terrorism in this country in the next couple of years is going to be off the chain. If they open it up and everybody can come in, then it's going to be just like the Safety Act here in Illinois, where they open the doors and put all the prisoners out on the streets. This is gonna be crazy, because if those illegal immigrants are here and they ain't going to jail, then you're talking about prisoners getting out and they're going back to doing the things they did before they went to jail. This country will definitely be in a state of a purge.
well, look, Chicago's a sanctuary city, so if you're an illegal alien in Chicago and you get booked in Cook County Jail, even if you committed a serious offense, when you get done serving your time, they're not allowed to call ICE to turn them over. ICE will send them to detainers saying, when you're done with them, give them to us, he's in the country legally, we'll deport him. Chicago's a sanctuary city. They're not allowed to work with ICE. So they'll release that illegal alien back in the community to reoffend rather than letting ICE take them and deport them because they're illegal. So it's not as bad as Chicago. Chicago, New York, LA, some of the biggest cities in this country are sanctuary cities. They wonder why the crime rate is so high. Well, if they really cared, if Laura Light cared about the crime, she could take that percentage of illegal aliens sitting in that jail and give them to ICE, and they can't reoffend if they're not here. They can't reoffend if they're back in Guatemala, or give them to us. We'll drive your crime rate down, but she won't because of political ideology. She says she's trying to fight the crime, but she's not. She's not doing everything that she can, or she would work with ICE criminal aliens that are in her city. Not all illegal criminals. Some never commit a crime after they get here. I get it, but many do, and many are sitting in Cook County Jail every day, and ICE can't touch them. ICE can't even walk into the taxpayer-funded jail. They're not allowed to even walk in the jail. So,
Mr. Holman,
or Lightfoot for not working with ICE and getting rid of some of these criminals.
Mr. Holman, let me ask you a question on just what you were talking about up in Chicago, that ICE is not allowed to come in. How was that done? Was that done through a law in Illinois or through an executive order by the governor or mayor or something? Do you know?
Mayor.
What's that? By the mayor?
Mayor in your city council. I know. I was up there. I went up with Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson was the Secretary of Homeland Security in 2014, 2015. A black man. And we went up there and we tried to talk to him. Look, give us the worst. Let's do something. Illegal alien commits a felony. That's a public safety felony. At least give us them. And they looked at Jay Johnson and said, no, that's racism. That's pure racism. And Jay Johnson goes, have you looked at me? I'm a black man. He goes, this has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with crime. These people are here illegally. They violated federal law. They just committed a public safety offense against a citizen in your city. Give them to us and let them get them out of here. So I sat there with your city council and your mayor, and they just, no, we're not. We're proud of, matter of fact, she said, we're proud of the fact that we don't work with ICE. We brag about it.
Oh, dear.
So wait a minute, Mr. Holman. You're telling me that a mayor of a city is violating a constitutional authority of the federal government and a federal law?
We, under the Trump, we filed a lawsuit with DOJ. We were going to win that lawsuit. Then the election happened. One of the first things told Joe Biden, president, he told DOJ to drop the lawsuit.
Oh my God.
And that's what I'm so glad that I had you on the show. And for one reason is this. I wanted the American people and patriots across this country, and especially the Black Americans, to hear the horror stories that are going on at that border, to hear how it affects us, and the crime rate across the major cities in these sanctuary cities is just horrible. It's off the chain. You know, they're snatching kids off the corners. They're shooting every 5 minutes. And this mayor, I call it Leviticus 2013 because you really don't know what it is. It's not a man or a woman. It's just it. But this person has continued to lie and steal money. Taxes that went up. Nothing has been done in the Black community, like she says. Police officers are still killing, and they want to defund the police. But now all of a sudden it's an election, and she running commercials like Lori Lightfoot. She delivers. So to the people in Chicago and the state of Illinois, is Chicago any better under her leadership, or is it worse? Bink?
I think a poll's been taken up there that she's really doing pretty bad right now. So, you know, you can't you put a suit on a turd, you still got a turd. So sorry about putting it that way, but you know, the facts are facts, you know. So I'm glad Mr. Holman come on here.
Lloyd Lightfoot wasn't the mayor. We went up there and met with him. It was the person we met with was he ran for mayor but lost. Penderfoot, something like that. Who ran Lloyd Lightfoot? Penderfoot, or something like that.
It was Willie Wilson ran against her. Was Chewy in that last race?
Chewy was in that meeting. He didn't want anything to do with us. It's a shame too, because we told him, it says, look, your crime rate's gonna get worse. We warned him, but whatever. If I'm of a city and I got a federal law enforcement agency coming and say, that guy who just raped that U.S. citizen, when you're done with him, give him to us. Not only will we remove him from the community, we'll remove him from the United States. Yeah. So if you really care about the crime rates in your cities, why would you not work with your brothers and sisters in law enforcement? I don't get it.
One of the things when you was talking about Miss Carrie Lake, and this election showed the American people a lot of stuff. This election with the machines not working right, bags coming up missing from the postal department of ballots harvesting, all of these things that have happened in this midterm. And the reason why the left want these people in the cities, because they're still trying to justify that Black people are coming out in droves and voting. Black people are not. The midterms was the lowest since 2006. And so if Black people aren't voting at the level they supposed to be voting at, that the numbers that they're putting out that we are, because we rode around election night in Chicago, and first of all, in the Black precincts, over 26 precincts didn't even get a second ballot to vote against the judges that they wanted to get out of office. So that never happened. They never voted against them. Secondly, when we watched the governor's race, how is it that Mr. Bailey started out with at least 20% of the vote in the state, and at the end of the night, he had 0 votes at all? So we know that they're manipulating the machines. But I want the American people to really understand there's nothing that's being done that is honest in this country. These elections are marred. The Democrats have found a way to cheat. They're throwing the rock and hide their hand. And if the American people don't really start holding and looking at, this is what I'm saying, look at the country under the leadership that we have now and look at it 2 years ago when Trump was in office. Mr. Holman, your last words. We got to get out of here. I love it.
Yep.
No, you're exactly right. We have the power to get our country back. And it's just not voting for the president. It's voting for your school board, voting for your city councilman. We got to take it back from the ground up. Because you mentioned it, the schools, you know, the woke school curriculums. You know, these mayors and councilmen have so much power, and so when you vote for your school board, vote for your city councilman, vote for your mayor, and vote for your governor, but vote for your president. Look, and senators and congressmen, they're accountable to us, not the other way around. They work for us. Matter of fact, I got a big argument with one congresswoman when she kept gabbling, telling me to shut up. I wouldn't shut up because she was lying. I wouldn't let her lie. Kept gabbling, telling me to shut up. Finally, I looked at her and said, "No, wait a minute. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me. You're accountable for me. You're going to hear me out." And that's what your listeners and folks need to understand. Everybody up on it, they work for us. They're accountable for us. So get on the phone with them and tell them to put their heads out of their butts and get something done, or you're not going to reelect them. We need to get to the voting booths and all these elections. We need to start raising a little bit of hell. You know, the problem is the Democrats, they're street fighters. They all stick together.
They're dirty.
They're the gentleman's club. And I met with over 100 GOP congressmen in Texas. And I told them, if you don't get your head out of your ass, you're never going to win an election in 15 years.
And you know what?
You got to fight for this country. You got to fight for the people that put you in office.
And we want to thank you. We want to have you back on the show at another time. Anytime you get some time, we'll be glad to have you. Thank you so much for telling our listeners what's going on. God bless you, and we'll be talking soon. Thank you so much, Mr. Holman.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bink, your last words right quick.
Well, you heard it live right there from a guy who's lived it, been there, done it. He spoke from his heart. You know, he's human. And as he said, we got to start doing something about it. But I want to, if I can, Dave, I want to follow up with him on a couple things if you can get me with him.
Oh, no problem. We can take care of that. That's not a problem at all. I'll see you. We gone till Monday, so Merry Christmas, and we'll be talking soon, brother. I love you. Have a great holiday. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors, Living and Driving While Black, Two Diamond CBD. I want to say this because we're out of time. It is so important that the American people and patriots across this country hear what they heard tonight. Somebody that's been on the front line. We actually heard who is doing something and who's not. We already know that the Biden administration hates this country. They continue to lie. They continue to steal. They continue to throw rocks and hide their hands, but nothing is good. And this administration is not benefiting the American people. So it's time for the American people to stand up. Stand up, call these senators, call these state reps. Just like he said, go to the school boards. We have to take this country back from the ground up. And in order to do that, the American people, no matter what color, white, black, green, or what, we have to stand together. We must fight for the future. But the key thing of it all is we must put God first again in this country and get back under his subjugation. For the word is, seek ye the kingdom and its righteousness, and all will be added to you. This country needs to seek God and seek its righteousness. God bless you. Y'all have a merry, merry, merry Christmas. We'll see you guys Monday right here, TECNN TV. God bless you, and may God keep you. Peace.